Bing bong.
This is the iDanSimpson Show.
We do it because it's right.
I love the dialectic.
His testicles became swollen.
Based.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Please clap.
Who's this man? This man in the hat. I'm gonna ruin this.
You're a stupid baby down.
Yeah.
Mommy.
All right. Love your face. Welcome back. Welcome in. Hey, folks.
Thanks for having me.
Well, hold on. We're gonna get you in this side. Don't get jumpy. You're not even on the screen yet.
Okay.
Gosh, I've never had this problem. All right. Before we introduce the guest, please support this content on Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You'll get early access to all of my replays with my chats with chill friends like Nasai, who's very excited to be here, and I'm excited as well. And then, of course, this is my show, Leftist Chill. You'll get early access to all of these chats. And, of course, we are going to introduce a returning champion to the stream today. Let's introduce self-described nerd Nasai. Hey, Nasai, welcome on. How you doing? Everyone, please clap.
Hello there.
What's up? Welcome in. How you doing? I don't mean
I'm
to
doing well.
admonish you for your excitement. I'm excited to be with you today. Welcome in. Thanks for being with me. What's up?
I forgot the intro process, so I actually thought you were talking to me.
Oh, well,
My
that's
bad.
all right. I'll do better on that in the future. Make sure everyone's on that same page. Hey, really excited to be with you today. Thanks for joining me again. Last time we chatted, I sort of shit the bed, and I forgot to mark you down on my calendar, so it snuck up on me, and we had a short chat. Today, you wanted to, and you know, anyone who's watching this replay or anyone else, definitely check out our chat. We got to know Nasai a little bit, and Nasai you're on the Antifada stream. You play Europa Universalis. Do you play that? Who do you do? You play it with Paul? You play it with
Sean,
You play
as
with
well as David, $27.
Okay, cool. Yeah, $27, friend of the stream. Great, awesome. That's sort of like a cool game. I'm not sure it's up my alley, but it looks like a pretty cool game. Y'all enjoy doing that. Is that the only game y'all play?
Yeah, for now.
Okay.
We talked about maybe doing some other ones, but yeah, for now we're just doing Europe Universalis.
Cool. And
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, when do y'all do that? Is that like a regular schedule thing?
Yeah, it's typically Mondays at 5 Eastern time.
Is that
sometimes-
Bingus? Is that Bingus in the background? We just saw Bingus.
That was a Bingus. That was a
so
Bingus. Yep.
cute, Bingus.
The one with
Bingus.
white on his chest is Bingus. The one that's fully striped is Zonko. But,
Okay.
yep, there he goes behind the monitor. So we'll see how
So
this
we'll see.
pans
We'll
out.
see if it knocks the camera down with the
Yep.
new setup there. That's adorable. We love cats. So thank you for showing Cat. You got an Alice in Chains shirt. Name your.
I do.
Are you a fan of the band? Name your favorite 5 songs. Go.
Favorite 5 songs? I can do that.
ahead.
Yeah, let's do Don't Follow, Nutshell, Love, Hate, Love. Probably a lot of songs would tie for 4th and 5th place, so we'll just leave it at those.
All right. We don't want to start some shit. Okay. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Challenge accepted.
Well done. You're doing it live. You're on the fly. You got good improv energy. Okay. So Nasai, anything else? Like what else is going on in your life? What's going on? You made the cool cat thing. Should we show off the cat thing here on the stream again?
You can show it.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, this is what we were just talking about actually. Is that Nasai just built this amazing cat tree. Look at him. We got a Bingus, and what's the other one's name? I'm sorry.
Zonko. Zonko's the one on the left in that picture. This is on the right.
Zonko?
Yep. It's actually their shelter names. It's
You kept the
names
shelter
from
names.
the shelter game. I just kept them. Yeah.
It actually
liked
worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bingus and Zonko.
Actually, yeah,
Sorry?
I made that whole desk actually.
Oh, cool.
In multiple parts. One was obviously because I just have a weird space in this apartment. It's a small
Yeah.
studio, so just getting the spacing right. Can't really buy a sectional, so I just made one. So it's, every couple of weekends I'll do a weekend project. So this was the one like 2 weeks ago.
It's a nice view too. Like it's nice little. Looks like you're up about a couple 2-tree floor. I don't know. I'm not trying to dox you or anything. You got a nice little view out there. Nice. That's nice. And yeah, you were mentioning that you go to the lumber store and they cut it for you, and you just piece it together and all. And I think that's really cool. What a cool project. Yep. I didn't know you built the desk.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. It's I like making my own furniture, and then my other projects you can see out in the back, out of the window there. My the planters that I built. Not a very good view of them, but yeah, I do some gardening.
Right.
About to start kicking that into high gear as soon as I'm in Seattle, so the temperature isn't quite right for it yet, but it's getting there.
Well, cool. That's stoked. I'm stoked to see that. That's really fun. All right. Well, what do you say, Nasai? Do you want to get into it? Do you want to talk about bullshit jobs? Yeah. This is sort of a special kind of a chat. You're a returning champion. We've gotten to know you a bit, and I like to invite people back for a variety of different things, whether it's Fortnite or like having someone sort of just teach me something. And I think this is an opportunity for that. Now, bullshit jobs was the topic. Bullshit jobs being, the David Graeber book. He's got a great book. We did a video on it, sort of reading from the pamphlet version of it last week, and if you can find that on my YouTube chat. Yeah, but then he turned it into a book. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he originally did an essay, which spurred some controversy, rightfully so.
What do you mean? What controversy?
Well, a bunch of people didn't like to hear what he had to say.
Oh.
But a bunch of economists all that. And so they he actually made like a research project out of it and like conducted surveys and whatnot, got stories from people, whether or not they like their jobs, that sort of thing. And then he turned it into a book from that.
I mean, he's an anthropologist. Mm-hmm. He wrote the book.
An anarchist anthropologist. Yeah, that's
anarchist anthropologist. So of course we appreciate that perspective. He wrote the book Debt. First 500 years of debt or something like that, right? I'm not 100% sure what that one's called.
First 5,000 years.
First 5,000 years of debt. I'm obviously not good at history. My gosh. Yeah. And really fascinating book, that one. Just we can touch on that really quickly. It how do we explain what that is? It explains how the idea of debt is just different throughout history and culturally across the world. It can really blow your mind. That book is sort of like, wow. And that's sort of the value of having an anthropologist and their perspective.
Right. Yeah. In terms of like looking at the history of economics and things like money, there's always been some differing opinions essentially between anthropologists and economists about, how certain things emerged like money and whatnot. And I tend to favor the anthropologist side, but I do believe economics is a thing that we should at least account for, which we'll get into in a bit.
We have a new chatter coming in hot. First time chatter, Mooney Machine, saying, it used to be considered a sin to lend money at interest. Isn't that fascinating? Right?
Yep. That was the original Catholic doctrine. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a lot of history around European Judaism. Because if you were Jewish, you were allowed to give people loans in Catholic countries. So there's a bit of fun history there that we don't necessarily need to get into, but would recommend reading about. It's pretty fascinating.
Okay. And now we can circle back to bullshit jobs. Jobs. So what do we want to do? How do we want to talk about bullshit jobs? Bullshit jobs should we just... I don't know. Can we give like a really quick, and I'm sorry for that ratchety sound. Yeah, real quick synopsis. How about that?
Yeah. So wait, was the ratchety sound on my end?
It was on my end. It's like it's a Skype thing, and I haven't troubleshooted this thing. It's just, I hate hearing it.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't even say anything.
Cats are noisy, so you might hear some background noise from them. So, but yeah, so the question essentially that David Graeber was setting out to answer here was, why so many people hate their jobs, why they feel their jobs are pointless, which is a lot of people, and rightfully so. And so he, went and asked people about their jobs, asked them to send him stories about how useless they were, why they thought they were useless or pointless. And so the book is full of, it's actually mostly analogies for better or for worse of people and their job experiences and just how, useless and tedious their work can be. It's also full of like cultural critique of, like Protestant work ethic kind of stuff, which I do like. And yeah, I just want to kind of stay up front that I do really like the book, and I am going to critique it. There's a major flaw in it that I see, but for the most part, I like the book and would recommend that anyone read it. So one of the things he does is he identifies like 4 or 5 different archetypes. It's like the flunky, the box ticker. Of course, I'm forgetting the other 2.
I got you.
I'm trying to just pull it off in my head. But
the flunkies, the goons, the duct tapers, the box tickers, and taskmasters. Taskmasters. Yeah.
Right. And so each of those archetypes that he identifies have different roles, and they are useless. And it's so I could just jump into the issue that I have with it if you want.
How about this? We'll let me pause you there, and we'll just let me just try to refocus us here. So like bullshit jobs, it sort of explains how like capitalism just creates all these extra fucking jobs that we just don't need, and they only exist because of we've chosen to go with this mode of production of capitalism and private property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have all these jobs, such as like security jobs, all these extra things that just don't really need to exist, but because we've gone with capitalism, they exist, because of that, people's lives are just. They feel increasingly meaningless. So I guess that's what we're getting at here. Okay, is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right, so
that's mostly that's a good interpretation of it, right?
Please. So okay, let's go.
Part of the problem that I have with it is he doesn't specifically call out capitalism's role in all of it quite as much as I would like to.
Really?
The only correction I would make to your synopsis.
Yeah. Okay. So he just doesn't tie it to capitalism. He just says we just have the jobs.
One of the things that he specifically says is that he thinks that the answer is both moral and political, but not necessarily economic. So my issue with his take is that it is economic.
Yeah.
I would be happy to explain why.
It's the economy, stupid, not you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't get it. So he says it's not an economic. Okay, hold my hand. Yeah, let's keep going.
So yeah, it's one of the things that it actually says in the original essay. It's he thinks that for whatever reason he just thinks that economics is insufficient to explain it, and he doesn't really dig deep into why, and he also doesn't dig deep into why he thinks it's more moral and political. The other issue with this is, yeah.
Let me pull this up. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, one of the things, so his 5 archetypes that he identify are truly useless, right? They're both useless socially, and so that they, they're not producing any value that addresses anyone's needs or wants. And they're also economically useless. Like they're not even useful to the company to have for the sake of profit or anything like that. And so this is where the issue comes in. My issue with it is that, those things do exist, but in order for that to scale up to the sort of quantities that you see, if 50%, 40 to 50% of the people think their jobs are useless, or 40 to 50% of the people are not going to be duct tapers, box tickers, taskmasters, that sort of thing. Most of them are going to be doing things that are socially useless, but are at least economically useful to the employer. Right.
Yeah.
So I would expand the definition of bullshit jobs beyond those 5 archetypes and just include things like sales and marketing, essentially.
Right. As in, if we hit the big red socialism button, a lot of those jobs would disappear.
Exactly.
Cat.
Right.
Cat.
Oh, there he goes.
Sorry. I just have to see Cat. Cat.
Yeah. So it's sales and marketing are not socially useful because they're not necessary for producing anything anyone needs. They're necessary for the distribution and increasing the demand for the products. And
Right.
so speaking of demand, I'm going to kind of go on a kind of deep tangent here, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Because so Graeber starts with Keynes, and I will as well. John Maynard Keynes from the Keynesian economics.
Yeah.
One of the things that Graeber mentions first is that Keynes famously predicted that after so many years we would be working 15-hour work weeks. Of course, that didn't happen. But what's important is why Keynes thought that. And in order to understand why Keynes thought that, we need to go back to the Great Depression and what spurred Keynes on to develop his economic theory in the first place.
15 hours sounds good.
15 hours?
Yeah, 15, only 15 hours a week? That sounds pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, 15 hours. It would be nice. So why did that not happen?
Why?
Prior to the Great Depression, the popular wisdom was that supply creates its own demand, that it's impossible to overproduce. And of course, for most of human history, that was true. The issue comes in when you actually do end up overproducing, which we did on a massive scale just prior to the Great Depression, and it was a major factor in causing the Great Depression. So the logic of supply creating its own demand, there's a couple other ones, but a couple different ways of interpreting it and a couple of different effects that it has. But one of the main ones was the idea was, if you're making shoes, right, and you're making enough shoes so that everyone can afford to buy one pair of shoes, that's fine. And then you have a productivity increase that lets you create twice as many shoes for the same amount of labor input, right? And then you can sell them at half the price. So now everyone can afford to buy 2 pairs of shoes for the same price, the same net price that they were paying for shoes before that. Now let's say you get another productivity increase, and now you can make 3 pairs of shoes, and now everyone can buy 3 instead of 2, instead of 1. The issue is a lot of people, rather than buy that 3rd pair of shoes, will choose to save their money instead. So this is essentially what demand side economics and Keynes' whole theory was based on, is that some fraction of income, once you begin to overproduce, is going to be saved or invested rather than spent on consumer goods. And you're going to have a problem because now you're making too much product, right? And so what do companies do when they're making too much products? They lay people off, right? They reduce their production and they lay people off. And what they don't do is reduce their production by reducing people's working hours and continuing to pay them the same fraction of the value they produced that they did before. If they did that, then yes, we would be on a 15-hour work week. We'd actually be on less now, something like 500% productivity increase in aggregate over all the time that's passed since the end of World War II. So 500%, divide the amount of time we currently spend working by 5, and that's how much time we ought to be spending working to achieve the same level of productivity.
Whoa.
Right. So what happens when companies start laying people off in droves is now you have a bunch of people who can't afford to buy the goods. Now you need to reduce production even more because fewer people are buying, and you end up in a spiral and doing Great Depression. So that's the skinny of the background that's needed to understand why the issue of bullshit jobs is at least in part economic. And I'll tie these together.
Please do. Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. No, I mean, take your time.
Do you have any questions about the whole Great Depression situation and laying people off and whatnot?
No, I think it's making some sense to me. yeah, I sort of see how it works, right? In theory, and I could obviously see it playing out. I'm obviously not close to the details, but I think it makes sense to me.
Yeah. So
In theory.
so there's a couple of things that happen when governments will try to prevent depressions. By boosting demand. They'll use fiscal policy and monetary policy. That's Keynesian economics. They'll try to keep the demand high through government intervention in order to prevent depressions from happening.
Yeah.
But you still have a bunch of unemployed people that are going to try to get back to unemployment or back to employment somehow.
Mm.
And so part of what happens since, the post-war economy is you end up with a proliferation of brands. Some of these people who got laid off will go and make their own new companies, right? So if there's 50 companies making shoes and they have a productivity increase and their production is capped, essentially, they will lay some of those workers off. Some workers, regardless of whether or not they're the ones that came from the previous company, it could be anyone, makes a 51st shoe company. And they're now going to duplicate all of the administration, marketing, and sales efforts that all of the 50 shoe companies who came before them are doing, right? So
Waste.
Right. It's all wasteful. But what you get over time is an increasing fraction of the population working administration, marketing, and sales, and executives. Increasing share of the population working those jobs and less share of the population working productive jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And this is it's not even necessarily on a per company basis. It's on a per brand basis, because as we know, with how much corporate consolidation that's happened over the last couple of decades, that there's just the massive companies that actually field like 50, hundreds, of different brands, all of which mostly have their own marketing teams intact from acquisitions and all of that. So the tendency over the last couple of decades is the increase of brands and the duplication of marketing and sales efforts. And what the marketing and sales does is helps the company increase their share of the market. What share of the demand that they get to address as opposed to their competitors. And that's why they're economically useful. They're not socially useful. And my personal feeling is that the reason people think they're pointless is because deep down, whether consciously or not, they understand that socially useless jobs are ultimately useless and alienating. And that's why people hate their jobs, because we have so much marketing, sales, and finance. Finance is a whole separate issue, but
well, we do. Let's say we do hit the big red socialism, but we're still going to need some like marketing people, right? Like we're still going to need people who know how to like I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like people who know how to communicate to massive amounts of people. I'm thinking about like how we're not dealing with COVID right now in the United States. There's such a lack of information. Like we don't know what to do. For instance, if I start feeling sick, you know what I mean? What exactly am I supposed to do? Right? Just there's such bad communication. I would think like we would have to have some of those positions, right? We're not arguing that they'll all go away, or are you?
No, I'm with you on that. The expertise will still exist. I mean, that job will still exist, but it's not something that's going to scale and spiral outward in a capitalist, like it would in a capitalist economy, for the sake of private profit. It would be for the sort of things you're talking about, like sending out mass communications to people who need to receive those communications. It's not, something that just scales on its own because everyone's starting companies and then hiring marketing teams. Sorry, the cats are
that was fun
behind the monitor.
It makes it more exciting. It does make this more exciting. Yeah.
Now, the other issue that came into play was the emergence of electronic communications. The TV and radio were invented post Great Depression era. So that kind of changed the game with marketing and sales as well. There used to be that with marketing and sales, prior to radio and TV, you would see a sign on the street as you're walking through town, right? now that we have digital communications, companies are basically trying to capture as much of your attention for as much of the day as possible, where they weren't able to do that before. So this is actually what's kind of referred to as the third industrial revolution, which isn't the one that's really talked about. Rather than the original industrial revolution where agriculture jobs became manufacturing jobs. All that labor shifted from one to the other. The third industrial revolution, we have manufacturing in decline and an expansion of service jobs. I kind of feel like marketing should be treated as a separate thing from service jobs, because it's, like I said, one of the things that scaled up and was able to absorb the newly unemployed workforce in a way that actually scales. And so with the other thing with the emergence of digital communications is essentially our attention as consumers became a new market. And all of the different brands out there are now they're now purchasing our attention through, basically, and it's basically an auction basis. Whatever advertiser is willing to pay the most to get their commercial slotted on a TV program is going to get their ad played. And so what that means is that capitalism isn't even longer able to give us the reduction in consumer prices that it was once able to do through productivity increase, because now everyone's got to bid on getting their product to market through marketing efforts. They got to spend all that money on that. That becomes a cost basis for the product, and now the products, the prices go up, because half the price you're paying for is to be advertised to, because advertising is expensive.
And that's why we can't have nice things.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
So it's it's why we have these extra superfluous bullshit jobs. It's why we have these jobs that alienate us, and make us feel like shit, drive us crazy. And it's also the reason we can't actually have nice things. That's why everything's breaking.
Yep.
Unless you make it yourself. Cheers.
Yeah. So make my own planter instead of buying one.
Yeah, that's a funny journey, by the way. Yeah, I like how you sent me pictures.
Well, yeah, it was funny because it turns out there was cedar planters at Home Depot, which I didn't see before, and it was just ironic that I was going there to buy the supplies to make one. So that was funny.
Small though, right? They were smaller.
Oh yeah. So I mean, sales and marketing has basically enabled capitalism to become far more wasteful than it ever was at any point in history. And I think people subconsciously, at the very least, understand that. And that's why they feel their jobs are pointless.
All right, so there's probably some sales and marketing people watching right now, and they're mad. What do you have to say to them?
My guess is most of them would probably agree with this analysis.
Yeah.
Especially if they're watching your Twitch channel.
Yeah, probably by now. Absolutely. I'm not mad, says Tech Guy. I agree. Does anyone have any anecdotes in chat? Let me know what y'all think about this. Yeah. My wife's a marketing manager. She would love to quit her job, right? Imagine, I would love to have a meaningful job, right? I feel like mine's okay, but, right? If I were marketing, I think I would like a change. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, your job is useful. Your job is entertainment at the very least. But yes, you also do the marketing stuff. I market socialism. Yeah.
It's weird. When you put it that way.
It's entertainment. I would regard it as entertainment, but it is also useful socially.
Yeah.
Not just because it's entertainment, but informational. It's educational. And it's
That's
very
right.
important.
You just did an ad for me. Thank you.
There it is.
Look at that. Clip it, ship it, chat. That's a good one. All right, you've been useful for me today. I don't need you anymore.
All right, see you later.
No. Anything else? What? Okay, so bullshit jobs, sales and marketing, bullshit jobs. Yes, it is the economy. Stupid. Number one, sales and marketing. The existence of it is, mostly ridiculous. Needs to go away. It's another source of waste and meaninglessness in our lives. And it's because of that we can't have nice things. What else? That's where we left off there.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about some of the things Marx has said about it. I mean,
about bullshit jobs.
Not necessarily bullshit jobs, but more about the overproduction kind of thing. Like he saw that before it happened. He essentially predicted the Great Depression.
He predicted it, Marx.
Yeah, I mean,
every time.
Overproduction was the cornerstone of his theory behind economic crises and capitalism.
Okay,
and he was right.
So the boom bust.
Yeah,
he connects that to overproduction.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, I guess
what he didn't anticipate was probably, I guess, the inflation of marketing and sales, which I mean, you couldn't be expected to anticipate.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of memes Marx would make. You know what I mean? Do you think he'd be a good memer?
He'd be an excellent memer.
He'd deep fry some memes. You know what I mean? I love that guy.
His memes would be very nerdy, though. Engels would probably be a better memer.
Nice. All right. Here's Tech Guy saying, meaningful. You hit the nail on the head with that word. I couldn't bring myself back to sales because I want to do something that's fulfilling and meaningful. Yeah. There's a vicious spiral when so many people are in bullshit jobs. We have to pay other people to have bullshit jobs because we're all scrambling. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. My wife and I.
That hustle.
Yeah. And when we're all like caught up in this cycle. Yeah. Like my wife and I both work so we can pay someone to take care of our kids, and we're so busy we feel like we need to buy fast food when we're tired and other conveniences. Yeah. When we don't have time or energy to just do it ourselves. Yeah. Because we're all caught up in the hubbub of the scramble and the bullshit jobs and the wasting of our time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whereas if one of us just had more time, we could do a lot more things for ourselves.
And it all goes back to the fact that employers decide to lay people off instead of reducing work hours. And the reason they do it is because it's more profitable to lay people off than it is to reduce people's work hours and keep their net pay the same. I
think I understand that part. I think I get that. So they're overproducing. You can imagine, I don't know, they're making some, I'm thinking of like milk, you know what I mean? I'm literally thinking milk and like how they dump milk that's sort of a separate thing, right? But like, let's say they're overproducing, I don't know. Let's think of a factory. They're making bikes, all right? They're making too many bikes. Instead of reducing everyone's hours by a certain amount and keeping everything else sort of like equally, in that sense, or balanced out or whatever, they decide to just fire people, and then and in doing so, they make fewer bikes, and they're making more money. How is that better than reducing hours? I don't get that actually.
So the layoff is the opportunity to increase their profit margin. So the way it works, so like say you have 10 employees, right? And you increase production efficiency by 10%, right? You could either reduce everyone's hours by 10% and achieve the same level of production that you did before, or you can lay one of them off. Yeah. Your workers, if you reduce their hours, they're not going to accept a reduction in net pay. Right, you would have to increase their hourly rate so that they're making as much money as they did before. I mean, you could try to reduce it. You probably wouldn't get away with it. And then you'd still end up with the same problem that would reduce the demand. You would reduce aggregate demand, and then you would still have, depression, recession, and that kind of thing. Not that the individual companies have any control over that, but if you just eliminate one of the workers and you don't give anyone a raise, you're paying less labor costs. Yeah. It's far easier to lay someone off than it is to tell your whole workforce that they're going to be making less money.
Okay. And that's That's what capitalism does. If you're not unionized, it's easy to just pick one off, right? You could fire people without cause for any reason, as long as it's not discrimination. As long as you don't get away, as long as you get away with it, you can discriminate. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
This is why we need the red socialism button.
I'm looking for it.
The main reason.
Did you see it?
Yeah. No, I think I left it in my other pants pocket. It's the only time we've had a work week reduction in history has been through the result of labor organizers. Right? We had the Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938 was the last time the work week was reduced, and it set overtime to be defined by hours worked beyond 40.
40. Pretty arbitrary, right? Yeah.
Still there.
We're still at 40.
It has not budged since the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938.
38. So let's make America great again and go back. Let's let the market figure it out.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Obviously, the invisible hand of the market. It's not doing very well for me these days. But okay, that makes sense. I get it. And of course, capitalism forces us to fight individually. And again, if those 10 bike workers aren't unionized, the boss can fire them without cause. They can do whatever they want. So capitalism, again, right back to it. It sucks. Every time it's capitalism, it's that profit motive. I really don't like it. Do you like capitalism?
Yeah.
Go.
No.
Good answer. You're really quick on that one.
I was ready for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I learned something today. That was awesome. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, it was actually unrelated to bullshit jobs, but I did want to answer it. So if you want to close out this chapter or whatever.
Okay. That sounds great. Nasai, thank you for hanging out with me today. We'll go ahead and end this here clip for the YouTubes and whatnot, and we'll take some questions from the audience afterwards. Nasai, let's go ahead and give you one more chance to shout out your projects, where people can find you and support you.
I don't really have much to plug, to be honest. I mean, I like hanging out with, Leftist and Chill on the Dan Simpson show. It can also be found weekly on the Antifada, playing video games with Sean and David.
Cool. All right.
Mondays at 5 Eastern.
Mondays at 5. And the link's in the chat there. Nasai, thanks for joining me today. Peace. And we'll take some questions from the chat right after this. Here we go. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thank you, patrons. Blake B, Jasmine Cooper, Boondock Dragon, Ira, Vivian, Nasai. That's you. That's you.
There he is.
Of course, big thanks to Willie Dustis, Sean Furcott, Mike Truck, and Todd Gonzalez.